Deep within the chambers of Neverwinter City, Nightingale delivered a report that would change the course of the war. Roland analyzed the distorted sigil transmissions, realizing his communication network had reached its physical limit. The church's infiltration mission had turned up nothing but empty basements and abandoned halls. A sudden transmission from lightning revealed that the red mist beyond the mountains was finally dissipating. Roland immediately summoned Agatha, hoping the ancient witch had answers for this unprecedented retreat. Agatha admitted that in her decades of war against the devils, she had never seen them abandon their posts. 5 days later, a specialized team of witches arrived at the silent and eerie devil camp. The obsidian towers stood like rotting pillars, their dark colors fading into a brittle, dying gray. Lightning nearly plummeted into a hidden pit as the ground beneath her crumbled without warning. At the bottom of the pit lay a devil, its body long dead and half buried in the soil. Agatha deduced that the retreat was sudden, leaving many devils to die in their underground burrows. Exploring further, they discovered a massive treasure trove filled with glowing magic stones. Maggie transformed into a giant bird to transport the valuable loot back to Neverwinter. Back in the city, Roland oversaw the reconstruction of the collapsed docks while awaiting Tilly's arrival. The arrival of Princess Tilly brought both hope and new complications for the growing city. Roland was shocked to see Heidi, the captured leader of the Bloodfang witches, in chains. The siblings discussed the internal conflicts of Sleeping Island and the threat of the church. Roland promised to protect all witches, regardless of their past or their combat utility. Andrea received a letter from her friends in the Kingdom of Dawn, warning of the church's movements. Roland realized he must mobilize the First Army to Valley Town to block the church's path. He knew that a direct defense was the only way to minimize casualties among the common people. Tilly placed a hand on Roland's shoulder, pledging the support of the Sleeping Island witches. Inside her quarters, Tilly admired the cleanliness and the snacks provided by her brother. Ash questioned why Tilly's attitude toward Roland had shifted so drastically. Tilly admitted that while he wasn't the stupid brother she knew, he was a much smarter one. She spoke of 3 possible outcomes of the coming war, ranging from defeat to salvation. Ash vowed to stay by Tilly's side and protect her until the very end. Roland soon confronted Heidi in her cage, demanding the truth about the missing support witches. Heidi mocked the idea of caring for worthless witches, unaware of their industrial potential. Nightingale stood nearby, her lie detection ability ready to catch every fabrication. Under pressure, Heidi confessed to trading the rejected witches to filthy aristocrats in Wolfheart. Roland left the traitor's fate in Tilly's hands, refusing to pass judgment on a Sleeping Island witch. A sudden discovery of a massive, multi-eyed worm monster sent Roland back into the field. Summer used her holographic magic to recreate the terrifying scene of the monster devouring a tower. Tilly realized the creature was the same one that had previously attacked a secret laboratory. Roland questioned if humans were truly the smartest organisms in this strange and evolving world. At the Royal Observatory, Master Misson peered through a telescope and saw something that froze his blood. A faint burning red light had appeared in the night sky, signaling the start of a prophecy. The old astronomer ordered a secret meeting with the master scholars to discuss the Doomsday star. Missan decided to write to Roland immediately, fearing that time was running out for the kingdom. Missan sealed the letter with trembling hands as the ink of his warning barely had time to dry. At the docks of Neverwinter, the rhythmic sound of hammers echoed as workers struggled to repair a collapsed pier. Roland stood at the edge of the water, his brow furrowed, as he calculated the structural flaws in the harbor's design. The horizon soon filled with the silhouettes of massive sails belonging to Princess Tilly's fleet. Princess Tilly stepped onto the gangplank, her silver hair shimmering under the fading light. The siblings shook hands with a formal coldness that masked a deep, unspoken curiosity. Tilly gestured toward a group of prisoners, revealing that she had brought the traitorous Heidi Morgan. Roland looked into the cage, seeing a woman whose ambition had led to the suffering of her own kind. During the interrogation, Heidi's voice cracked as she tried to barter a kingdom for her life. Roland felt only a cold disgust as the woman admitted to selling support witches to the aristocracy. He reminded her that in Neverwinter, even the smallest power was treated with the respect it deserved. In a private chamber, Tilly confided in her guard Ash about the uncertain future of their refuge. She explained the 3 paths of the coming war, ranging from total destruction to a life of freedom. Tilly realized that the sanctuary of Sleeping Island would lose its purpose if Roland succeeded in his revolution. Roland sat alone in his office, wondering why his sister's attitude toward him had shifted so drastically. Far to the north, the astronomers prepared their telescopes for another night of surveying the heavens. Miss Anne peered through the lens and saw a faint red light that did not belong in the star charts. He whispered the name of the ancient prophecy, calling the anomaly the Doomsday Star. The assistant scrambled to record the coordinates between the Six-Path Star and the Sky-Scorched Star. Misan realized that the peaceful age of observation was coming to a terrifying end. Back in Neverwinter, Roland reviewed the interrogation notes, satisfied that the truth had finally been extracted. He decided to let Tilly decide the fate of Heidi Morgan, honoring her leadership over the refugees. A sudden transmission from the communications sigil interrupted the morning quiet. Lightning's voice crackled through the stone, reporting a discovery that defied all logic. She described massive holes in the cliffs that looked like the burrows of gargantuan insects. Roland felt a chill as he realized the Devil Camp's retreat was linked to these new monsters. He ordered his steamship to be prepared for an immediate expedition to the northern mountains. As the ship moved, Roland discussed the potential of using these monsters' tunnels for his own logistics. On the shore, a young girl watched the mechanical beast pass by with wide, uncomprehending eyes. Upon arrival, the party discovered a landscape transformed by the burrowing worms. They witnessed a holographic projection of a worm devouring an entire stone tower in seconds. Agatha noted that these creatures were not mentioned in any records of the previous Divine Wars. The possibility of a third party entering the conflict weighed heavily on Roland's mind. Suddenly, the ship's alarm bell rang out as a scout spotted a church messenger on the riverbank. Roland ordered the messenger to be brought aboard, sensing a change in the Holy City's strategy. The messenger delivered a letter with the Pope's seal, proposing a meeting that felt more like a trap. Roland knew he could not ignore the summons if he wanted to end the church's reign once and for all. He shared the news with Tilly, who warned him that the pure witches would be waiting for him. As they spoke, the red star in the sky grew brighter, casting a bloody hue over the snowy landscape. Misan watched from his tower, realizing the Doomsday Star was no longer a distant threat. Roland received a final report that the church's main army had begun its march toward Blizzard Town. He realized that the time for preparation had run out and the time for blood had begun. Far away in the Holy City, Pope Zero watched the red star, a slow smile spreading across her face. She knew that the soul she had been waiting for was finally approaching the trap. A messenger arrived at Roland's door, gasping for breath as he delivered the final, terrifying update. The soldier reported that the pure witches had already breached the first line of defense at the mountain pass. Roland looked at Tilly, their rivalry forgotten as they prepared to face an enemy that could erase their existence. The Doomsday Star pulsed once, casting a shadow over the world that would never truly disappear. Deep in the dungeon, Heidi Morgan heard the distant sounds of war and began to laugh in the darkness. As the first army mobilized, Roland realized that the real battle was not on the ground, but in the sky. The first army settled into the frozen trenches of Blizzard Town as the horizon darkened with the church's approach. Roland stood atop a command tower, his eyes scanning the distance through a brass telescope. Nightingale remained by his side, her form flickering in and out of the misty void. Suddenly, the ground trembled as massive church catapults launched their first volley of boulders. Roland signaled the artillery crews, and the iron cannons roared in defiance. Explosive shells tore through the church's ranks, throwing dirt and armored figures into the air. Amidst the smoke, the pure witches descended from the sky, their robes billowing like wings of death. A swarm of magical insects began to flood the trenches, biting at the terrified soldiers. One pure witch surfaced from beneath the earth, her magic causing the very ground to liquefy. Roland watched in horror as his men were dragged into the shifting soil. He ordered the snipers to prioritize the casters, and the sound of precision fire cut through the screams. Pope Zero laughed as she deactivated the defensive stones, leaving Roland completely exposed. In a flash of light, she bypassed the guards and appeared directly before the prince. Roland's vision blurred as his consciousness was pulled into a surreal modern-day classroom. Zero stood at the chalkboard, her white hair contrasting against the green slate. Roland realized this was a battle of souls, where imagination was the only weapon. Zero lunged at him with an ethereal blade, striking him down instantly. Roland gasped as he respawned in the same seat, his heart racing with phantom pain. He closed his eyes and visualized a heavy steel shield, blocking her next strike. Roland then imagined a submachine gun, spraying lead into the white-haired Pope. Zero simply reformed from the shadows, her power fueled by the 1,000 souls she had devoured. Roland noticed she was breathing heavily, realizing her mental stamina was not infinite. He concentrated on the very laws of physics, removing all friction from the floor beneath her. Zero slipped and fell, unable to find purchase in a world governed by Newton's laws. Roland unleashed a barrage of fire and logic, overwhelming her consciousness until it shattered. The vision faded, and Roland opened his eyes to see the snowy sky of the real world. Anna was there, her eyes red from crying as she realized he had finally returned. He learned that the Church's army had retreated in terror after their Pope's defeat. Witches from across the continent began to arrive at the gates of Neverwinter, seeking sanctuary. Roland stood on his balcony once more, watching the first steam train roll across the new tracks. He knew the devils were still coming, but now he had a unified kingdom to face them. The dream world still beckoned in his sleep, a source of endless knowledge from his past life. He shared a quiet moment with Anna, acknowledging that the world they were building was finally real. The First Army began their drills with new, advanced weaponry designed from his memories. The age of the Church had ended, and the age of iron and magic had truly begun. Roland picked up a pen and started the first page of a new constitution for all of humanity. In the shadows of the dream world, the child version of Zero watched him with a curious tilt of her head. Roland felt the weight of two worlds on his shoulders, but he no longer felt alone. Neverwinter stood as a beacon of hope in a dark and changing world. As the sun set, the Prince of Technology and the Witches of the Revolution prepared for their final destiny.